Hello and welcome back to the Thought Leader Recruiter. I'm your host, Sam Bylett, and today I'm joined by Lawson Leefe, founder of CVMe. Lawson, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sam, and thank you very much for the invite. It's good to be talking with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. So, for our listeners who aren't familiar, can you give a quick overview of CVMe and the problems it solves for recruiters?
What does CVMe do? Three things really well. So, I guess first and foremost, CV formatting is the first thing we do. So, I'll go into this perhaps in a bit more detail if you'd like to discuss this in more detail in a second, Sam. But I think as a general overview, give it any CV, no matter how complex, PDF, docx, whatever, drag and drop it in there. And then 10, 20 seconds later, it's in the format that you choose it to be in. So, you can design your own template, make it look exactly as you want it to look. Obviously, every brand will have its own view as to how, sort of CVs ought to be laid out. But define that template and then it's done there 10, 20 seconds later. Really, really good. And that's, super, super cheap as well to do it. Second thing we do is we've got access to about 24 million CVs in the UK, which is a huge number by virtue of the number of integrations we have with most of the major job boards. And what we can do there is if we give the platform a job, any job description, it will extract the core requirements, it will then write the Boolean, and then it will do the search and then come back with a list of profiles really, really fast. So rather than having, a resourcer or a recruiter spend half a day looking at a couple of hundred CVs, ours will assess this at a rate of zero point 0.1 of a second per CV. And so we can get through hundreds per minute. So, we can trivialize that time and bring it down to under a minute for about 500, 600 CVs, something like that. The accuracy of that is superb. So, we obviously, test that against and benchmark it against consultants, experienced consultants, the results are just as good, if not better. And it works across any sort of role. So whether or not we're looking for aeronautical engineers, dentists, you name it, it's really, really good. So a second thing we do. And the third thing we do is provide a platform to be able to show those results, formatted CV results and search results to clients. So I would guess that most agencies are probably either emailing CVs over and just attaching a CV and trying to sort of provide a bit of a cover note as to why they've put them on there, or they may be uploading directly onto an ATS system that the client uses. But I think that what that misses is the ability to share a lot of useful information about the candidate and a lot of market feedback as well to the client. So, we've got a really nice platform that enables the client to see average salaries across the market, where people are plotted and where they live, how they score. So there's an assessment report for every single person that is, it comes back on the search results. So the client can see how you've assessed them, why they've been scored the way they've been scored, where they live, what the salary is. And then from there, they can go, yes, I want to interview. No, I don't. This is when I can interview, and make all that available via a platform. So those are three things we do. So CV formatting, CV sourcing, and a really good sort of candidate presentation tool. That's what we do.
Amazing. Sounds like every recruiter needs this. It sounds like an incredible platform for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, when we talked before, you mentioned CVMe was born out of kind of frustrations with existing tools at your other business you're involved with. And
Yeah.
what were the biggest gaps you saw in recruitment, kind of CRMs or SaaS tools that inspired you to build your own?
Yeah, sure. So I think that the first and foremost, I mean, we didn't really see a platform at the time which was flexible as we wanted to be flexible. So fundamentally, we sort of built our own ATS and CRM system. Not that we sell that, but I mean, nonetheless, we sort of built that internally for our own sort of recruitment business. And I think that gave us a lot of flexibility to sort of set up a pipeline for how we deliver our results exactly as we wanted it to be. So I think it was the flexibility of designing your own one from scratch is obviously going to trump anything you buy off the shelf. But I think that as part of that, we then looked at, well, where do we spend a lot of our time during the days? A lot of our time during the day was spent doing CV formatting, and a lot of the time during the day was spent searching for CVs, right? And then putting together reports for clients. So we just simply looked at all those different things and then built those features in. And then, once we knew that they were robust and worked, and we could see evidence that these were really useful for us, we then decided, okay, well, probably sensible thing to do here is monetize that and look to bring it to market. Because if it works for us, it's probably going to work really, really well for other businesses because it solves our own problems. And that's really where CVMe came from. It's just commercializing now some of the tools that we built internally to help us deliver some results.
Yeah, incredible. And you said CVMe reduces a 30-minute task to 10 seconds. How does the technology handle complex PDFs or inconsistent layouts without human
Yeah.
intervention?
Okay, so I'll not reveal too much secret sauce there, but I mean, what I would say is this: I think that parsing is not new. There's lots of parsing software out there which will try and capture this data, and some are pretty good, and some are absolutely terrible, right? So they'll capture a portion of it, but it's then still a manual task then trying to get the rest of the data where you want it. And I think anyone that's ever uploaded a CV applying for a company using big software will be keenly aware of the frustrations and limitations of parsing software, because ultimately, you'll sort of drag and drop a CV there, and it will only capture a portion of it, and you have to manually then go and type it all in. The way that most document extraction works is, you will typically look to extract characters top to bottom, left to right, right? So you will basically look at the coordinates of where these things are on a page, and then extract them all, and then you'll end up sometimes with a pretty good rendition of what that original text was. Often, if you've got things with a more complex layout like columns or boxes or tables, it just completely falls apart at that point. So what we built is our own way of getting text out super reliably. So no matter how complex that layout, we're effectively looking for gaps. We're looking for where the white space is, and then we are able to, with really, really sort of high fidelity, keep the text in the right order. When the text in the right order, then the second challenge is then, okay, well, what is this text, right? And then where do we put it on the page? So, and then that, just in terms of speed of that, we're talking, fractions of a second to be able to do that calculation, and then categorize and work out what the different components of the CV are, so that we can render it with a really high fidelity back onto the page. So, in terms of how we capture that information in the first place, we've got a really, really good text pre-processor that allows us to do that, and that's proprietary to us. So I think we've got a really good solution for that. As for how we do it, so how we sort of reduce that 30-minute task to a 10-second task. I mean, we should also probably just touch on why it takes so long to do this. Look, I mean, I think CVs are really interesting because they're one of the only things in the world that almost everyone has, and there's absolutely no uniform way that we all agree this thing should be laid out, right? So my CV is going to look different to yours, going to look different to everyone that you meet in the pub, right? Everyone's got one; they're all different. And I could have a doc, you could have a docx, someone else could have a PDF, someone else could have saved it, in like a PNG file. Who knows? But how you interact with all the different documents is fundamentally different. And if you get a really long, complicated one, and a lot are fairly complicated and quite long, and almost all CVs these days are in PDF, which is a good thing, but not a good thing if you're just trying to do this manually. Getting all the text out to start with, and then A, anonymizing it, B, repositioning it all in the right order for how you want to be able to represent that data, getting rid of the spelling mistakes, bulleting all the information so it's clear, easier to read, all that sort of stuff, does take time, right? And that is expensive. I mean, I guess what are your options? Your options are either you get your recruiters to do that, and that's going to be half an hour. It's going to be £9 roughly. If you factor in the total cost of employing someone for an hour, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of time gone. If you're sending out 3 or 4 CVs a day, that's 2 hours gone, and a massive cost in terms of the bill. So because we're able to do this really, really, really quickly, and also we charge as little as 70 for this, I would think it's a no-brainer in terms of, well, what would you rather? And I suppose the other alternative as well is you could outsource this, but that comes with bigger issues with regards to data compliance and GDPR, and typically as well, for those that are able to be compliant doing that, they're often slow to come back. Yes, you've offloaded that work away from the recruiter, but if you need to get that CV out and you need to get it in front of a hiring manager before someone else, you can't afford to wait 3-4 hours for that CV to get turned around at the back end of the day. So actually getting something that enables you to get it in front of the client quick is really, it's really, really useful. So I mean, basically how we do it.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Yeah, sounds extremely advanced. To be fair, the Boolean search integration with job boards like library sounds revolutionary. Could you walk us through how recruiters can input a job description and get ranked candidates in minutes?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, look, I mean, let's think about what you would do if you were doing this manually, right? So, best case scenario, I'm an experienced recruiter. Worst case scenario, it's my first day in the job, right? So we'll look at the most, the sort of more experienced option first. So, the more experienced consultant will be able to look at a job description and understand what that job is, but they're still going to have to take time to read through it, and they're still going to have to go and put a search together. So, they would then take that knowledge, they go to their platform of choice, and they'd look to then write together a Boolean string. Okay, and then they would hit search, and then they're manually looking at each of the different results one by one. And even if you're quick, you're still going to be taking 30 seconds minimum, I would say, per document there. And if you're not quick and you're not new, and you are new, then it's a whole another level of challenge, right? Because you're going to really struggle to understand what that role is. You're going to really struggle to put together a good Boolean string, and you're going to really struggle to be able to really look at the context of that CV and understand what it is and why it's relevant. And you could be spending a minute and a half per CV. And let's suppose you've got 500 results there. That's going to take you ages, right? So what we do is we give the system a role. You can type in free form what you want, or you can copy and paste the job description. You can upload a document, and it will extract from there what the core requirements are. Assign a weight of importance to each of those different points. It will basically give instructions for how it's, and it will tell you how it's going to assess these different CVs. It will write the Boolean itself, and then it will go and do a search on those jobs. So as I said, the reach that we've got there is massive. If we've sort of put this in context, what is 24 million? It's roughly about 70% of the entire working population of the UK. So if I walked into a pub, right, 7 in 10 people there, we can ultimately sort of view their CV. So the reach on it is enormous. So we can then run that search, and it will assess each one of those profiles that come up based on the Boolean that's been inputted there at a rate of 0.1 per second or less, right? So it's super, super, super fast. And what you get back is basically a score on each of the different points that have been extracted. So, for example, if I was saying, all right, I want to go and find an experienced podcaster who's got at least 2 years experience sort of working doing sort of focus on the recruitment sector, then it would be quite difficult to sort of parse that through in terms of sort of set of requirements. But this will ultimately sort of extract all the different points that you need there, write a Boolean there, and then extract them, just sort of cycle through that really, really, really fast. So, I mean, ultimately, as I say, if you're looking at 500 CVs, I'd estimate that to be about 4 or 5 hours of a task potentially. This will do the same thing there in under a minute. So you're talking sort of 45, 50 seconds there with all the results back, with full explainable report on every single one of those. Now, obviously, we don't want to show absolutely all the results there. So we only show the top, say, 20, 30. User can specify how many they actually want to manually review. You can click on those and just ultimately have a really, really good, tight shortlist of the top 20 that have been assessed. Yeah, there you go. So I think the other thing that's quite cool about this is that Boolean's got some real limitations. So, for example, if I was searching for, I don't know, a particular skill, it will match based on that simply being present often in the CV. What it doesn't care about is the position of that, right? Now, if I'm looking for a chef and someone was a chef, they were, Gordon Ramsay, right? And then all of a sudden they've had a career change and they've stopped being a chef, and they've not been a chef since then for about sort of 5, 10 years. It's still going to come up, and that's dead annoying. So I don't really want to see those results. I only want to see things that are relevant to me now. So what we can do is we can effectively move away from needing to rely on the Boolean, and we can just give it clear, plain language instructions, such as only show me people who are currently working as a chef. Only show me people, who have got anything that I particularly want to go and see. So I can ultimately not have to rely on the Boolean. We can assess people and only get results back that match the criteria that we've set there. So I think that's really, really, really useful. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Boolean search, but that just that takes it to another level.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you mentioned CVMe's white label candidate portal. How customizable is that? And did you prioritize branding flexibility over a richer template?
Yeah, sure. So I think that, as you said before, really, I mean, I think on the CV sort of templates and the formatting piece, every agency I've worked with and every CV I've seen from agencies, they're all laid out differently. So they will have their own brand standard, and I don't think a solution which has a very opinionated view on how CVs should look is necessarily going to deliver the right solution for those kind of businesses. You care about your CV, and often you care about your CV because ultimately that's the way that you know your clients want to receive information. So the template itself has to be, in my opinion, super flexible, and it's got to be customizable so it exactly meets the needs of that business. So yeah, I mean, we don't have any sort of hard coded templates. All of them are customizable, so you can choose color, font, whether there's multiple columns in that. However you want to lay it out, you can develop that and save it. And then every single CV that you and your team does will always render perfectly in that template. And then as for sort of showing, those CVs and results then over to clients, yeah, it's also really important that it's then white label. So it doesn't come across there as a CVMe page. It comes across as an extension of your agency, right? So yeah, I mean, ultimately you can put your logo in there. All the CVs that are shown, sort of templated to the individual agency's choices. In clients, when they ultimately receive the report, will receive it from your business with your logo on there, with a sort of a link to be able to click onto that. So yeah, I think ultimately, I mean, the client does not need to know that this is a CVMe product. What they want to know is that this is from a business that they trust and know, and that's the agency that's working with them. So I think it's really important that it is white labeled to be able to, to be able to deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for kind of small agencies versus kind of large firms, how does CVMe's pay-as-you-go pricing scale for different team sizes?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, ultimately, I mean, it's based on a pay-as-you-go system that just rewards you with usage. So obviously, the more you use it, the cheaper it is. It already starts off pretty cheap, about 90p a CV, and then sort of scales down then across each of the different categories based on usage. But I think a pay-as-you-go model is a much fairer way of setting these rather than monthly subscriptions. I mean, think about this. I mean, I guess that for me, the sort of classic frustration with monthly subscriptions is that either you are underusing what you're paying for and you're wasting money, or you're undersubscribed to what you need, and then you're penalised for going over that. And how are you to know? I mean, recruitment is super variable, right? It's really flexible month to month. I mean, what you hope is that you've got a constant level of orders and a constant level of candidates you're bringing through, and that's uniform. But that's not recruitment, right? It can be up and down. You can have real sort of like peaks and troughs and so on. And so I think that a pay-as-you-go model is exactly the right fit for the recruitment market because it is up and down, right? So I think that something that like we've got here that allows you to put some credit on there. The credit does not expire. It rolls over every month. If you bought it, then it's there to use as and when it suits the user to use it. And as I say, then it gets progressively cheaper the more you do use it every month. So I think beyond 250 CVs, it comes down. And then I think beyond 500 then comes down again. And if a business has got an incredibly high usage, then again, contacting us for a bespoke pricing package is something they can do. So yeah.
Sounds fair enough for sure. And you're now integrated with CV Library. Are there any plans to add any other job boards or ATS platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think fundamentally what we want is a good representation across all the territories that we're selling the product in. I mean, roughly speaking, that's the States. It's obviously here in the UK where it's one of the largest recruitment markets. Any English speaking country, ultimately, this will deliver a really, really good service in. So what we want really is partnerships with other sort of job boards there that allow us to extend that search functionality to other territories as well. There are some technical aspects of those integrations which are challenging, I will say. What we're doing here is interacting with the job boards in a way that they were not originally designed to be interacted with, right? So we're assessing this at superhuman speed. We are accessing tens of thousands of CVs a day. So it's got to be done in a sort of careful manner in which we're sort of going through the sort of process of getting consent and so on. It's got to be a very open conversation with the integration that we're looking to get there, and they take a bit of time to set up. But certainly for the UK market, as it stands in the recent what is massive. As I say, with 7 in 10 working people in the UK, we can search and find their CVs and deliver this resource on. So I think that in itself is more than enough to be able to deliver an exceptional service here in this domestic market for us. But yes, of course, we are in conversation, particularly in the States, to be able to bring services there. But that does require that we sort of have those integrations sorted with job boards.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not an easy process.
yeah, for sure. That's a huge reach. we all know kind of recruiters love security data. How does CVMe handle sensitive candidate information, especially with the automated processing?
Yeah, sure. So I think so. First and foremost, I mean, let's have a look at what we actually, save and what we don't. So we do not save on our system, anything that is confidential, right? So we don't save any hard addresses, we don't save any first names, we don't save any email addresses or phone numbers or anything at all like that. So I think fundamentally why? Because all of these things should be obfuscated. I mean, when you were sending a CV over as a recruiter, you're not going to include those things. I mean, obviously a name, but things you would not include. You don't want those on there. We don't store them because there's no need for us to store them. We replace those with the recruiter's own details there. So first thing to say is we don't store information we don't need to store. You know, and that typically is a lot of the high risk stuff. We just don't even engage with them. We don't store them. So second thing is everything's encrypted. Anything that we do store is encrypted. At rest. God forbid if anyone was able to breach us, then they would not be able to see anything on there anyway. So that itself is nice and secure. And I suppose the third thing there as well is that we allow the individual user to specify how long they want us to store data, if at all. So if they want to, they can simply turn that off and we don't store it at all. I think by default, we set the storage at about a month, and after that, it will just auto delete because ultimately we don't want to be holding data we don't need to hold. The user will get a notification to say, look, we're going to be deleting these number of CVs. You can choose for us to sort of store that a bit further if you want to. But ultimately, we just auto purge anything that's not needed beyond a certain period of time that the user can specify. And then by default, nothing will store beyond 12 months. So we're quite careful in terms of how we process this and also what we say and how we say. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And what's next for CVMe? Are you working on any AI-driven features like candidate matching or interview scheduling?
Well, candidate matching, I would argue that's exactly what we do already. So I think candidate matching is exactly what one of the services is there. And there is no faster way of delivering that service than what we've built. I can say now we are the only business that has the integrations that we've got. So if you wanted to ultimately be searching job boards and automating that process, the only way you can do that is via CVMe as it stands at the moment. So I think CV sourcing and sort of a candidate assessing is a big part of what we do. I think that, you know, I think there are fundamentally, I think there are limits as to what AI is useful for in recruitment. I think that there are tools that have been brought to market which aim to solve lots of problems here. And I may be biased, of course, in my response here, but I think that um, there are some things that just shouldn't be aimed to automate, right? I think that any sort of actual candidate engagement, that's a human thing. It's got to be a human thing. I don't think it's I don't think it's desirable from the candidate perspective to engage with anything other than a person. And I think that I mean, I don't know. I think interview scheduling is an interesting problem, but I think the only way that could really be solved is everyone all coordinating calendars, and that requires consent. And I don't think candidates would bother doing that. I think it would be possible to do that, but I think it would be difficult to get engagement from the individuals to make that happen as a solvable problem. So I don't know. I think that, but yeah, I do worry that I think if there are businesses out there that are trying to, I don't know, sort of have like an AI avatar go and speak to a person, and then that's all of a sudden a replacement for actually assessing that person's ability. I think they're doomed to fail. I just don't think that people would ever want to engage with that. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being unfair. I think probably a fairer way of saying that is that maybe could work for certain categories of recruitment if you're doing super high volume trades and labor kind of stuff, maybe there is a solution there that works well for. But if you're in any kind of market that requires engaging with someone passive, the last thing that I would ever want to do as a passive candidate is engage with an AI bot. I can't see it, right? So I think that what we've solved in terms of using AI in the sort of normal recruitment flow is, in our view, I think that's sort of the optimal amount of AI usage. Is taking the tasks that people really don't want to do, and it's getting rid of that admin, right? It's getting rid of searching, which takes ages. It's getting rid of formatting, which is a really laborious admin task. But ultimately, there is a purpose for doing it. The document's going to look really, really good, and it's going to enable you to probably get a better response rate on the candidates you send out. Hunting candidates in a really effective way. That's a really good use of AI. So I think that the automations and stuff that we built in are probably the extent of what we will build out. as I say, we've got our own ATS and CRM system, but I don't have any intention to bring that to market. It's sort of hyper focused around the way that we deliver work. But I think that no, in terms of feature sets, I think we're happy with what we've got. I think the intention now is just to sort of expand that to other territories and roll it out more effectively than across other parts of the world.
Yeah, sure. And so if our listeners want to try CVMe today, what's the best way to get started? Is there any kind of free trials or demos?
Yes, there is. So I think I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll create a little sort of demo code here. So if people sign up, you'll see a link down there for an affiliate link. If you type in trial 20, then that will enable them to get an additional £20 credit. But by default, if you go to the site, we don't look behind a paywall. We don't look behind a sign up. The ability to go and see this working, right? So if you want to go and go to the site now, then it says try now. Click try now. Put a CV through, right? It'll work. You can then optimize that CV to a role and have it reflect all the best parts of what that person could bring to the table, and sort of have a little summary section written around that. So you can see all this working. You can only do that so many times, of course, before then you do have to sign up. But when you do sign up, as standard, everyone gets £20 of free credit to enable them to sort of fully test out the rest of the features. And if they use the code trial20, then we'll pop another £20 on there as well. So that's more than enough to be able to get a really good understanding of what it can do and how it can add value to an agency. So, yes.
Brilliant, good stuff. And where can people connect with you and find out a bit more about CVMe?
Well, I mean, so connecting with me, I mean, I'm sort of very much an elder millennial, right? So I'm away from a lot of social media. The business isn't, right? A really good sales and marketing manager, Maya Wolf, who joined us earlier this year, and she can be connected with across all major platforms. CVMe itself is on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, it's on Instagram, but connecting with me mostly LinkedIn.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Lawson. It's been a fascinating conversation. Really enjoyed it, and appreciate you coming on. And we'll catch you next time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invite, Sam.